Hello and welcome back, goats, to the BigBluePurple channel. In this video I wanted to talk about Unreal Trials, and specifically the newest Unreal Trial in patch 6.4, Zurvan Unreal. Before we get into the video, I just wanted to say that only about 5.4% of you are actually subscribed to the BigBluePurple channel, so if you're interested in seeing near-weekly Final Fantasy XIV content, please consider subscribing. Also, if you're somebody who's looking for part 2 of the Anabasio's video and wondering where the hell it is, I'm still working my way through P12S. It's not like I've given up on making the video or anything like that, but I just haven't had time to clear the tier yet, so I'm still working my way through that. Hopefully next week's video will be the Anabasio's video, so please stay tuned for that. All of that aside though, let's talk about Zurvan Unreal. First of all, what is Unreal for those who are unaware? Basically, Unreal Trials are old, extreme fights from Realm Reborn and Heavensward so far that have been brought up to level 90, so you can basically experience the fight as it was, but with your new rotation. The Unreal Trial rotates every major patch, so in 6.3 we had Sophia, and in 6.2 we had Sephiroth, and so now in 6.4 we have Zurvan. Each week you can complete the Unreal Trial and earn the ability to play this minigame in Idyllshire called Faux Hollows. You basically just uncover these tiles here, and you try to find either the swords, the gift box, or the fox himself. The swords earn you a retelling, and so they're the most important to get on your first card of the week. This means you can do a second card after if you clear the fight again, hence why you will see tell/retell parties in the Party Finder. You're essentially guaranteed to get the swords as long as you know where to look, and there's a great website for this called the Faux Hollows Solver that will basically just tell you where you should uncover depending on what your board looks like. Upon finding the swords, the gift box, or the fox, you also earn faux leaves, which are the currency which can be exchanged for the actual rewards from Unreal. You can earn mounts, minions, fashion accessories, all sorts of shit with the faux leaves. And also, even if you're not too interested in the rewards themselves, you can also sell a lot of the mounts or the minions on the market board and make millions of gil. So there's still a lot of incentive to be in here, even if you don't care about the rewards themselves. Additionally, I think Unreal is a really good place to start if you've never done any kind of like raiding content in this game before. Even though the word Unreal tends to sound a bit scarier than extreme, it's actually just the same thing and arguably easier, because a lot of these older fights tend to have easier mechanics just by nature of being older. Also, if you're just somebody like me who hasn't experienced these fights because you weren't playing the game back in Heavensward, it can be really interesting to see what old fight design looked like, since it's pretty different from the type of fights we see nowadays. But let's talk about the fight itself now, what I like about the fight, what I dislike about the fight, and everything in between. Starting off not so strong, the first phase of this fight there's pretty much nothing happening. He'll delete parts of the arena slowly in a counterclockwise rotation. You just have the main tank stand in the front, and the party stay at the back. And then the party wants to stay stacked up for these flare star baits. It's like an AoE that spawns under you. And that's really all that happens for this first part of the fight. Kind of makes you wonder why it's even here. This part of the fight goes by incredibly quickly though. I think it's only like the first 40 seconds, if even, of the fight. Now the real fight starts, and if you're the tank here, the main tank specifically, you're going to notice how much damage this guy does all of a sudden. I think this is just an Unreal thing, because it's basically mimicking min-eye level. But goddamn, the autos and the cleaves like really fucking hurt. Soar is the first major mechanic of this fight, and you won't be able to skip it in Unreal, so get ready to disband. Jokes aside though, Soar itself is actually a really simple mechanic. It's just a spread with two different possible formations, depending on where the clones spawn. So you just need to memorize two different spread spots, and as long as you know both of them, you should be able to do the mechanic no problem. It's the first mechanic in the fight anyway, so you're going to see it a lot, and you're going to get pretty good at it. That doesn't stop Party Finder from finding the funniest ways to fuck up this mechanic though. Watch as this Dragoon backflips from almost the right spot into the entire right side of the arena and kills everybody. This is why I raid in Party Finder. Every week it's something new and it's just fucking entertaining, man. Next he does like this Demon Claw mechanic that knocks the tank back and then slams him with a laser beam. The party's supposed to stack for this with the off tank in front, but we always just have the main tank invul this for simplicity's sake. I will say, positioning Zurvan as a tank is actually pretty fun in this fight, because unlike a lot of newer fights where the boss just returns to the middle for certain casts, Zurvan actually stays where you pull him, and you can kind of pull him around freely. Because that Demon Claw is a big knockback, the tank actually has to be mindful of Zurvan's position so that he doesn't get sent out of bounds and one-shot killed. Otherwise, he does Biting Halberd, which is a cleave everywhere except for behind him. He does Southern Cross, which is just an AoE bait. Everyone stacks up and then moves. He does Cyclical, which is an in AoE, and then also Tail End, which is an out AoE. Basically, all these mechanics that you're seeing in this phase are preparing you for phase 2 of the fight, where he actually combines those mechanics with other mechanics. This fight made me realize how spoiled I was with the full uptime fights we get nowadays. Sora is really annoying as a Reaper because he's untargetable, and for that entire time he's untargetable, I don't get to build gauge, which is the core of what I need to do on the job. I feel like the design philosophy they go with nowadays of making the fights full uptime ends up making them a lot more fun overall to do, especially as a melee DPS. The actual ads phase here is about as fun as every other ads phase in the game. There's not really much to say. It's not that great. If you're the tank here, it can actually be a little stressful because these ads can crit auto you and just decimate your health bar if you're not ready. I remember when I was learning this fight, it completely caught me off guard because I just got two-pieced by ads as a tank and I was like, what the fuck? The way this ads phase actually works is really simple. Basically, one ad will be summoning a meteor. If the meteor is summoned successfully, everyone dies. So just focus that one first and then kill the rest. That's the whole ads phase. After you finish the ads and you watch the cutscene, you're on to the second half of the fight, and in my opinion, this is the best part of the fight. It is much, much better than everything before it. Basically, the main mechanic of this part of the fight are these fire and ice tethers you're going to get. And these tethers need to be kept close together. If you stretch them too far apart, the two tethered players are going to die. He then does Broken Seal, which forces you to go stand in the towers, the same element as your tether. So everyone needs to spread out with their partners and soak towers. This mechanic is always a disaster in Party Finder because people don't have like priority systems on where to go. They always just wing it, and it ends up being so chaotic and always very entertaining. I actually really appreciate how punishing that mechanic is as well. If you have someone die and lose their tether, they can still soak a tower, but they're gonna get one shot by that tower. And if they don't soak that tower, then the party's going to take a bunch of damage, and if you miss more than one tower, you're probably going to die without a tank help you. It basically serves as a body check to make sure like you didn't die to your tether, or you didn't die to the Southern Cross bait you need to do right before the towers spawn. The rest of the fight is basically just repeating this over and over again with a few soars in between. So he just keeps doing the fire and ice tethers. There's 3 different patterns of towers you need to soak, followed by either an in, an out, or a behind, just like in the first phase. So in terms of my overall verdict of how I actually feel about Zurvan, I really like this second phase with the Broken Seal and combination mechanics of the ins and the outs and all sorts of shit. I think that's really fun, and I wish the first half of the fight was just more of this. But unfortunately, the ads phase I think takes up way too much time in this fight. Wiping in phase 2 is so annoying sometimes because you know you have to go and sit through that slog of an ads phase again. The first minute of the fight, there's nothing happening when you're on the top platform, but at the same time I feel like that's most fights in this game, where for the first minute you're just doing nothing. In terms of other Unreals, I don't have a whole ton to compare this to. The only other ones I did were Sophia last patch, and then Ultima's Bane all the way back in 6.1 I think. Sephiroth was 6.2, but I actually never got a chance to do that one because I just wasn't playing the game that much back then. In terms of what I've done, I think Sophia was better than Zurvan by a considerable amount. Sophia's pacing was just a lot better in my opinion. The ads phase didn't feel as boring. The first part of the fight didn't just feel like filler to set up the second parts, and the second part of the fight was really fun with the tilting of the scales and whatnot. And watching people go flying off the map because they didn't know where to stand was just absolutely hilarious and made Party Finding that fight really, really fun. Ultima, I honestly don't remember that well, so I can't really say, but I think I enjoyed this fight a bit more than Ultima. This also brings me to a small gripe I have with Unreal that I really wish they would just not do, is they have the Unreal trial rotate out every patch, and so the old Unreal is just gone from the face of the game. You can't play it anymore. If I ever wanted to do Sephiroth Unreal again, I would have to get my hands on a time machine because it's not there anymore. If they're keeping the old version of the content in the game anyway, I don't imagine it would take any extra resources to just leave the level 90 version in the game. I'm not saying have rewards tied to it. I don't even care if there's rewards tied to it. It's just like, if I want to go do a fight, like an old fight at level 90, and they've already created a level 90 version of that fight, I feel like we should just be able to do it for fun if we'd like to, you know? That being said, it is what it is, and at least like the original level 60 versions of all these fights will always be in the game. Overall, if I had to place Zurvan on like a tier list, he'd probably be either like a high C or a low B. I really like the second half of the fight, but the rest of the fight just kind of brings it down for me. Anyways, these have been my thoughts on Zurvan Unreal and kind of the idea of Unreal Trials as a whole. I really like Unreal, and I really like the idea behind it. I hope we get like Unreal versions of the Binding Coil raids one day so I can experience those, or even Alexander Savage, because I feel like that would be so cool to experience in kind of the current environment of this game. I hope if you stumbled across this video and you've never done an Unreal before, maybe this will give you the motivation to go give it a shot, get yourself some nice mounts, minions, and even some gil. Unreals are even easier than current Extreme is, so it's a really, really good place to start, like I said, if you've never done anything like raiding in this game before. If you're somebody who's been doing all the Unreals since they started, or even just the Endwalker ones, I'd love to know which one has been your favorite. Which Unreal do you hope to see in the future? For me, it's definitely King Thornton. I really want to see King Thornton Unreal, and maybe Nidhogg Unreal as well. Those are the two Heavensward ones that I'd really like to see next. Unreals are a super healthy way to kind of breathe life back into old content, and for newer players, it just feels like brand new stuff to do, like for myself personally. So it ends up just adding a lot to the longevity of this game, but I think it would add even more longevity if they just left the old Unreals in, so that we could enjoy those too if we'd like to. With all said and done though, thank you all for tuning into this video. Remember to drop a like on the video, but only if you did, and subscribe to the Big Blue Purple channel if you're new around here. I make near weekly 14 content, like I said, and I cover pretty much anything and everything in the game that I feel like covering, from ultimate rating all the way to the sightseeing log and everything in between. Now go run yourself some Zurvan and enjoy the memes in the Party Finder.